Member for South West Coast.
Thank you, Speaker, and I rise to speak on the State Taxation Amendment Bill. This is a taxation bill that will bring more taxes to the state of Victoria and to the community that live and work and the families that reside here in Victoria. 55 new taxes. And before I go on to start on a couple of those that are introduced in this bill, I'd like to rebut what the member for Greenvale was stating. He actually stated that it is politically immature of me, the person from Warrnambool, I think he called me, to actually think that you have to keep taxing to be able to get income. Well, I remind the member for Greenvale that the former Premier said on the night before he was elected into power a decade ago that his word, which was ironclad, was that there would be no new taxes. So while the member for Greenvale gets up there saying it's very justifiable, we're introducing 55 new taxes because we need the money. Well, my friend, what you need is a little bit of fiscal responsible management courses to make sure this budget that we've been handed down doesn't get any worse. And the way the Treasurer presented this budget last Tuesday with absolutely no enthusiasm, almost remorse, but fell short of apologising to Victorians, which I think was very much what I think in the back of his mind he was thinking. Because what Victorians now have is a debt of $188 billion by 2028 with an interest bill daily of $26 million interest a day, with no plan to pay back that debt, and the excuse that we had COVID. Well, let me remind particularly the member for Greenvale that all the states in this country had COVID, but we have a debt, unlike the other states, greater than Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria put together, Speaker. That is absolutely disgraceful and frightening. That's why we have borrowings that mean we have to pay $26 million a day in interest payments by 2028. $26 million a day. How many schools would that build? How many surf life saving clubs for Warrnambool? How many basketball stadiums for Portland? How many basketball stadiums for Warrnambool? How many elective surgery procedures would that fund? People are languishing in pain as we speak because this government can't get the health budget in order. The Minister for Health said just a few weeks ago, I will tolerate nothing less than 240 elective surgeries done per year. Well, guess what the budget just came out with? They'll only be doing 200,000. So her words hollow. Her words to the people languishing in pain through desperately needing shoulder replacements, hip replacements, knee replacements. They are struggling and suffering because of the mismanagement of this government. The mismanagement that's seen the 55 taxes just in the last decade that after saying there will be no more, and 2 more in this bill. The first one that I'll discuss is the waste management charge. Doubled. So to put waste into the tips, the state government will be heading towards the pockets of families, which will directly impact not only homeowners and young families and all families, but renters as well. That will be passed on, like all the other property charges that equate to 27 of the 55 taxes that this government's introduced. That's why we have a housing crisis. That's why they've upset the equilibrium in the market, because A, they haven't built enough social houses and they've sold off assets and they've taxed the property market so that investors are not coming to the party, they're selling in their droves and people are being left homeless. For the member for Narre Warren North to actually talk about the fact that they're investing in helping the homeless, well, build the houses and that helps the homeless. Those services that are handing out swags and offering tents to people are at their wits' end. Can you imagine working in that sector right now? How disturbing would it be to see these women who are coming in, victims of family violence, that this government says they understand, but they've just cut $29 million out of the family violence budget as well, and having to hand them a tent or a swag. Just disgraceful. Now I'll talk about the fire services levy that also will come in people's rates notices and be, hidden from people that it's coming from the state government, but be absolutely clear that's what's actually causing the fire service levy rate to go up on your rates bill and your waste management charge. So here we have a government that's put up the fire services levy, yet delayed the significantly hiking the budget, but delaying 83% of existing CFA capital projects, delaying that 83%, so that 28 of the 48 critical new heavy tankers that were originally promised in 2021 haven't been delivered. So this is a government that says, but we need more money because we need to pay the fire services, the UFU members who are in the MFB in Melbourne. So no wonder I'm hearing from farmers, angry as all hell, that they, as volunteer firefighters, will see an increase in their farm fire service levy go up thousands of dollars in many cases to go towards United Firefighters Union demands for higher pay, while they struggle, the CFA members and volunteers, to replace their ageing trucks and dilapidated stations. Last year, the UFU rejected an offer of 3% pay rise each year for the next 4 years, plus a $7,359 sign-on bonus, plus another $2,021 annually for 4 years. So Mr Marshall actually even demanded his UFU members get free public transport passes. I mean, seriously, they want their wholly funded health insurance plus hikes in allowances on top of overtime. Where does it end? And where is the fairness? But that's just the 2 taxes in this bill that take it up to 55 new taxes. What about the helping families comment that the Treasurer launched the budget with? Well, what about the $400 payment that's not going to families, it's going to schools? And schools, particularly in my electorate, the Catholic schools, are telling me it is deeply unfair. That's a quote from one of the principals locally. We believe the payment should be means tested for all students and apply to all students. It should not be based on what school you attend. This policy punishes families for choosing to send their children to a Catholic school. That's what the community think of this very unfair $400 payment, and how is the school supposed to administer that? Put a little bit of thought into how that is going to work. It does not make a lot of sense. So we've got $21.5 billion in taxes, which is crippling that property sector. $21.5 billion. That's taxes that are $7.8 billion in land tax, $10 billion in land transfers duties, $1.4 billion in COVID debt levy land holdings, $1 billion in the fire services property levy, $127 million in the congestion levy, $221 million in the metropolitan improvement levy, $125 million. It just goes on and gets bigger and bigger. And at the same time, what are we seeing? Cuts in IVF. Public IVF. How does the member for Yan Yean and Narre Warren North look their constituents in the eye and say, we stood up here 2 years ago and promised public IVF for those families to give them hope that they could have a child. Now, less than 2 years later, cuts to dental. There's a 2-year waiting list in my electorate to see a dentist. Why would you cut dental? Cuts to family violence. Well, all day we've been hearing how this government, the Labor state government, care about women and care about changes to improve the outcomes for people who are victims of family violence. But they've just cut $29 million from family violence services. Cuts to cancer research. I mean, how low can you go? 70% cut to cancer research. And at the same time, funding a $4.1 million scoreboard at a football ground. This government is buying love, and it's a disgraceful show of disgraceful principles that don't even warrant the word principle. Cuts to mental health. When our children are in trouble, really needing, and many of our community, cuts to youth justice, cuts to child protection. This is a government who can't manage money. And Victorians are paying the price for the mismanagement, for the cost blowouts. It's time this government realised how badly they've done and apologised for the Victorian communities and the families, because nobody is fooled. In fact, the families are hurting.
Member for Mulgrave.